mentalhealth.org. The assessments are free and absolutely anonymous. As the holiday season kicks into high gear, unfortunately, so too does the flu season. Sergeant Sarah Tate heads to Martin Army Community Hospital to find out how you can better protect yourself from the seasonal flu and now H1N1.
Receiving any kind of shot or getting anything up my nose is definitely not my cup of tea. Health officials are recommending that you protect yourself this year from two strains, the seasonal flu and the H1N1. Now, some of you might have received one and not the other, but not so fast. You might have to receive both to fully protect yourself in the months to come. Martin Army Community Hospital and clinics around the installation are in a full swing operation, giving patients the seasonal flu and H1N1 vaccinations. But some are still wary to receive the new H1N1 vaccine.
The risks of not receiving it would be the risks of contracting H1N1, which again is, we haven't seen H1N1 in a traditional flu season. So how H1N1 will act over the next few months and during the traditional flu months, December, January, February, we're not really sure. Up until now, it's starting in the springtime. It seemed like a mild influenza, but we clearly are seeing an increased number of deaths than you would expect to see with seasonal influenza. And it clearly seems to be targeting a younger patient population, children, and especially pregnant women.
Backinson also said that the H1N1 vaccine comes from the same CDC-approved manufacturers that produce the seasonal flu vaccine. And if you heard that the vaccine can get you sick?
It's a total myth. People don't get the flu from the flu shot. What you can see with any vaccine, you certainly can get some mild flu-like symptoms from any vaccine, not only the flu shot, but from hepatitis shot, from the MMR as children, or any other vaccine that you would get. And that's actually should be comforting for most people. That's an outward sign that the vaccine is working.
Vaccinations are one way to protect yourself against the flu. Something as simple as washing your hands with plain old soap and water will also protect you this flu season. I'm Sergeant Sarah Tate, Fort Benning TV.
Currently, seasonal flu vaccines are available for everyone. The H1N1 nasal spray vaccine is currently only available for two groups: patients ages 2 to 24 and ages 25 through 49, only if you are the caretaker of a child 6 months or younger. Currently, injectable H1N1 vaccines are only available for deploying soldiers and healthcare workers. To schedule an appointment or for H1N1 updates on vaccine distribution, call the appointment line at 706-544-2273. With thousands of Fort Benning soldiers currently deployed, their families are left behind celebrating the holiday season without them. To bring some much-needed cheer, the Child Development Center on Main Post hosted a Thanksgiving feast for more than 150 people to show their appreciation to the families for their sacrifices. Employees spent 2 days cooking turkey and the traditional trimmings, and the children who attend the Development Center entertained the crowd reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and a Thanksgiving poem.
The soldiers and their families sacrificed so much for us today, and I just think that that's the least that we can do is take time out to say that we do appreciate and we do understand the sacrifice that they make. You know, it's not free peace that we have here in the United States, and that, you know, they're going all around the world fighting for us, and that's the least that we can do.
Every day, the Main Post CDC serves 88 families. Coming up next on the Benning Report, if you're a fan of shows like CSI, then you'll like what we have coming up next. Welcome back to the Benning Report. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has its fingerprints all over the 3rd Brigade transition teams as they work over in Iraq. Our Ron Andrus joins us with the latest edition of Live Fire. So Ron, what do you have for us today?
The FBI recently paid a visit to Kelly Hill, not to investigate any crimes, but to teach 3rd Brigade transition teams the tricks of their trade to help the Iraqis better police their streets.
You know, the guy was tied up, there's possibly kidnapping. I'll show you another scene that could be involved in the kidnapping.
If you're in the U.S. military, have a law enforcement mission, and need to learn the art and science of crime scene investigations, who are you going to call? The world's premier crime busters.
The FBI has come down here all of this last week, and they've been teaching us about forensics, how to process crime scenes, how to approach a crime scene, how to prepare to go visit the crime scene.
We were asked to help the Army with their mission, basically to go over and help train the Iraqi police, and they've asked us to come here to help train them on search and investigative techniques that we utilize in civilian law enforcement.
The FBI is providing CSI basic training to 3rd Brigade transition teams, giving them the tools they'll need to accomplish their new mission downrange.
This training is very important. A lot of these guys don't have a law enforcement background, so for a good many of them this is baseline training.
The officers involved in this training are going to be train the trainer. We'll go into the leadership of the police forces in each of the provinces, and we will teach the things that we've learned here.
When we go out and work with the police in Iraq, we'll be able to evaluate their methods, give them recommendations, give them a general knowledge of how the system works in the United States, best way for collecting evidence.
These combat advisors are not only learning how the FBI conducts business, but how to see and think like a crime scene investigator.
You have a crime, and looking at that crime, looking at what are the key elements that you're looking for, the types of things that would help prove that that individual did or didn't do it, collection of those items in order to present it in a court of law.
When processing a crime scene, investigators must be methodical and patient, and they must know what to look for and what to do with what they find.
How to go into a building, a car, a particular location, what to look for, how to look for it the best way, and how to preserve the evidence that's there, from seeing it, photographing it, collecting it, and making sure that you maintain a good chain of custody.
This line of work can be challenging and by no means predictable. You never know what lies ahead or what you might discover, especially downrange.
A lot of times you never know what you're going to get into. You'll know that a crime has occurred and what you're generally looking for. A lot of times you'll go into a residence and you just don't know what's there. Things may be obvious, they may be laying out. You may have to do a more intrusive search. You may think that only I have 1 or 2 items to collect, and then you go into a house and you have hundreds. So on any given day you don't know what it's going to be.
The tools learned here can be applied in any type of crime scene and will be used to raise the overall quality of law enforcement in Iraq.
Each day, their procedures are getting more and more stringent. We hope to make sure that they stay ahead of that power curve with their police forces.
Both the FBI and our military work very hard to protect our country and have a mutual respect and appreciation for each other.
I'm honored to have an opportunity to go out there, and if I can provide any kind of help, and I know the team that's here in the FBI is excited about that as well.
They're very proud. They do a wonderful job, and I'm proud to be here and to be working with them.
Huge thanks to them, absolute professionals.
On behalf of Sledgehammer 6, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
we
sir.
really do appreciate it. This has been good training, Hua. It really was.
The FBI provides a variety of law enforcement training that is available to all branches of our military. They support our troops in any way they can to help them to be successful downrange.
Ron, it sounds like they really have a unique partnership between the FBI and the 3rd Brigade. Is this the first time they've come down to Fort Benning to work with the 3rd Brigade?
The FBI comes here and provides training to our soldiers when they're needed and requested. And the same holds true for the rest of the military, no matter where they're located.
That's great. Thanks, Ron. So what is providing kids with a unique way to learn for 200, Alex? That answer after the break. Remember the love, celebrate the life, and share the journey. That's the message from a national nonprofit that reached out to the families of Fort Benning's fallen soldiers. Our Matt Gallup introduces us to a new form of grief counseling at Fort Benning that is helping those who lost their daddy, aunt, brother, or child.
It's the news that no military family or loved one wants to hear. But being in a time of war, this devastating news is bound to change someone's life forever. Fortunately, there are organizations like the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors who work hard to help support those loved ones who are left behind. They tour the country, visiting various military installations, helping both adults and children affected by the loss of a loved one to learn how to deal with the grief and continue to lead healthy lives. TAPS recently made their way to Fort Benning and helped survivors both locally and from far away to honor the memory of their fallen loved one and helping them recognize that it's okay to live your life and pursue happiness.
They've helped me deal with my grief. So when times were rough, it helped me get through. We've made a lot of bonds that have strengthened the healing process.
A lot of the focus was on the surviving children of military casualty. Called the Good Grief Camp, the children not only had a great time playing and surrounding themselves with other children they could relate to, they also learned a lot about grief and how to deal with their issues. As an added bonus, The children were buddied up with volunteer soldiers from Fort Benning who let them see a familiar uniform and help them